Welcome to our channel. Here, stories help you learn English while having fun. Today, we will share the story of Priya, a little girl with big dreams. You will see how she faces challenges and makes her dreams come true. As you listen, you will learn new words and improve your English skills. Every story is exciting and easy to understand. Join us on this adventure, and let's learn together. Don't forget to subscribe for more fun stories. Chapter 1. Childhood Dreams and Promises. Ahmed, a 30-year-old software engineer with piercing brown eyes and a heart full of ambition, had always been a man of principles. He came from a deeply religious Muslim family. Though successful and well-respected, his biggest desire was to build a family filled with love and warmth. Fatima, a 28-year-old teacher with a nurturing heart, seemed like the perfect match for him. They had known each other since they were young, their families tied together by tradition, friendship, and shared values. Their love wasn't one of sudden passion, but of gradual understanding and affection. Ahmed admired how Fatima cared for children and how her gentle nature complemented his more driven personality. They decided it was time to get married, and their families couldn't have been more delighted. The date was set, the preparations were made, and soon everyone gathered for the grand event. On the day of the wedding, the venue was bathed in soft golden light. The floral arrangements were meticulously placed, and every detail was perfect. Fatima was dressed in an intricately embroidered white gown with silver detailing, and she looked like an angel. Ahmed wore a traditional black sherwani with gold accents, and his eyes glowed with love and anticipation. Among the guests was Priya, a 12-year-old Hindu girl who had always admired Ahmed from afar. She lived in the same neighborhood and grew up watching Ahmed, feeling a strong sense of admiration for him. He was kind, respectful, and had a calm confidence that drew people toward him. In her young, innocent heart, Priya would often dream of one day marrying someone like Ahmed. But she wasn't just dreaming in silence. She often told her friends, her parents, and anyone who would listen, "I will marry Ahmed one day." People would laugh and brush it off as a childish crush, but Priya was serious. Her admiration for him was deep, and she looked up to him in every way. During the wedding ceremony, as Fatima and Ahmed were about to exchange vows, something utterly unexpected happened. Priya, sitting among the guests, suddenly stood up, her face flushed with emotion. "I want to marry Ahmed," she declared, her voice trembling yet bold. The entire hall froze in shock. People's eyes turned toward the little girl, and whispers filled the air. Then, slowly, a ripple of laughter spread through the crowd. It was a sweet, innocent moment, and everyone thought it was adorable. Priya's parents were horrified, though, and tried to shush her. But Priya didn't care. Her heart was pure, and she had spoken her truth. Ahmed and Fatima exchanged amused glances. They smiled, understanding that it was nothing but a child's innocent affection. Priya was just a little girl with a crush. But little did they know, this moment would come back to haunt them years later in ways they could never have imagined. Life as newlyweds was blissful. Ahmed and Fatima settled into their new home, a cozy apartment in the heart of the city. They shared the responsibilities of life with ease, and soon they were blessed with two beautiful children. Ayan, their son, came first, a bundle of energy who loved to play football. Zara, their daughter, followed a few years later, a creative little girl with a passion for painting. Fatima was the kind of mother who poured her heart into raising her children. Every morning, she would make breakfast, pack lunchboxes, and send them off to school with a kiss. Ahmed, while dedicated to his work, tried to spend as much time with his family as possible. They went on picnics, celebrated birthdays with cake and balloons, and life seemed picture perfect. But beneath the surface, small cracks began to form in their relationship. Ahmed's work started taking up more and more of his time. He often came home late, exhausted, barely able to talk to Fatima, let alone spend quality time with her or the kids. Fatima, on the other hand, felt overwhelmed with the demands of being a mother and a wife. She loved Ahmed, but she started feeling lonely, as if she were living a life of her own while her husband drifted further away. The arguments started small, about household chores, about Ahmed missing dinner, about the lack of time they spent together. But over time, the arguments became more heated, more personal. One evening, after an intense fight, Fatima broke down in tears. "You've changed," she said, her voice trembling. "You're never here. You don't even know what's going on in our lives anymore. The kids miss you. I miss you." Ahmed felt the weight of her words, but he was too exhausted to respond. He loved Fatima, but he couldn't understand why everything had to be so difficult. He was working hard to provide for the family. Wasn't that enough? But it wasn't enough. Not for Fatima. Years passed, and the tension between Ahmed and Fatima only grew worse. They tried to hold on for the sake of their children, but the love that had once brought them together was now buried under layers of frustration and unmet expectations. On their 10th wedding anniversary, instead of celebrating, they found themselves in yet another bitter argument. Fatima, her eyes filled with tears, finally said the words that had been hanging in the air for months. "I can't do this anymore, Ahmed. We need to end this." Ahmed stood there, shocked. He had seen the distance growing between them, but he never thought it would come to this. They had been through so much together. How could it just end like this? "Are you sure?" he asked, his voice barely a whisper. Fatima nodded, tears streaming down her face. "Yes, I don't want to fight anymore. I don't want to live like this. I think it's time we go our separate ways." The divorce was difficult, not just for them but for their children. Ayan and Zara didn't understand why their parents couldn't just get along. There were many nights filled with crying, with Zara clinging to Fatima, asking why Daddy wasn't coming home anymore. Ahmed moved out into a small apartment, just a few blocks away so he could still be close to his children. He tried to move on with his life, but the pain of losing his family weighed heavily on him. Years passed, and Ahmed, now 40, was living a quiet, lonely life. His children had grown older, and while he loved them dearly, he couldn't shake the feeling of emptiness inside him. He had lost the one thing he thought would last forever, his marriage to Fatima. One day, as he was walking through a park near his apartment, he saw a young woman sitting on a bench, reading a book. Something about her seemed familiar, and as he got closer, he realized who it was. It was Priya, the little girl from his wedding, now all grown up. Priya was now 22, a confident, beautiful woman with long black hair and bright, intelligent eyes. She had become a lawyer, following her dream of standing up for justice. She had always been ambitious, driven by the same spark that had made her declare all those years ago that she would one day marry Ahmed. Ahmed approached her, his heart racing with the shock of seeing her after so many years. "Priya," he said, almost not believing it was her. She looked up from her book, and her face lit up with a smile. "Ahmed, it's been so long." They began talking, catching up on each other's lives. Priya told him about her studies, her career, and her life. As they talked, Ahmed couldn't help but notice how much she had changed. She wasn't the shy little girl anymore. She was a woman, confident, mature, and full of life. Priya, too, noticed how Ahmed had changed. He was still as kind and gentle as she remembered, but there was a sadness in his eyes, a heaviness that hadn't been there before. She could tell that life hadn't been easy for him. Over the next few weeks, they started meeting more often. At first, it was just casual, running into each other at the park, grabbing a coffee together. But soon, their meetings became more intentional. They would sit for hours, talking about everything: life, love, dreams, and regrets. Priya confessed that she had never forgotten the day of Ahmed's wedding. "I know it sounds silly now," she laughed, "but I really believed I would marry you one day. I used to tell everyone about it." Ahmed smiled, remembering the innocence of that moment. But there was something deeper between them now, something neither of them could ignore. Despite the years and the age difference, they found themselves falling in love. Their love was different from what Ahmed had experienced before. With Fatima, it had been a slow-burning affection, built on years of friendship and shared values. But with Priya, it was passionate, consuming, and unexpected. They started spending more and more time together, and soon it became clear that what they felt for each other was more than just friendship. One evening, as they walked along the lake, Priya turned to Ahmed, her eyes full of emotion. "I love you," she said simply. "I always have. I know we're different, our age, our lives, but I can't deny how I feel." Ahmed was stunned. He had felt the same way for weeks, but had been too afraid to admit. Chapter 2: A Love Conflicted. Priya's confession had hung in the air like a fragile whisper, echoing in Ahmed's mind. Her words were filled with raw honesty, and Ahmed felt the weight of the moment pressing on him. Here was a young woman, vibrant and full of life, telling him that she loved him, a love that had blossomed from childhood admiration, evolving into something far more profound. But Ahmed, now 40, couldn't help but feel conflicted. After a long pause, Ahmed gently placed his hand on Priya's. "Priya," he said, his voice soft but steady, "I care about you more than I can say. But you're young, just 22. You have your whole life ahead of you. I'm an older man with a complicated past. Are you sure you know what you're saying?" Priya's eyes sparkled with determination. "I know exactly what I'm saying, Ahmed. Age doesn't matter to me. I've loved you for years, even when I was just a girl. That feeling has only grown stronger. You make me feel alive, understood, seen. Don't you feel the same?" Ahmed looked into her eyes, realizing that he couldn't lie to her or to himself. He did feel the same. The connection they shared was undeniable, something deeper than he had ever expected to feel again. But doubt still lingered. What will people say, Priya? You're young, beautiful, and just starting your life. You deserve someone who can give you more. What if people think you're with me for the wrong reasons? Priya squeezed his hand, her voice filled with confidence. I don't care what people say. They don't know our story. They don't know how much we mean to each other. Let them talk. But despite her confidence, the fear of judgment hung over them. That night, as they parted ways, the unspoken question lingered. Could their love survive the weight of societal expectations? For the next few days, they both tried to carry on as if nothing had changed, but the tension was palpable. They met less often, each grappling with the reality of their feelings. The age gap was always there, casting a shadow over their connection, and Ahmed felt the pressure mounting. He started to distance himself, thinking it would be best for Priya to move on and live a life unburdened by his past. Priya, however, wasn't willing to let go that easily. She had already lost too much time waiting in silence. One evening, they met at the same park where they always sat. The sun was setting, casting a warm golden glow over the lake, and Priya could feel the distance between them growing. We can't keep doing this, Ahmed, she said, breaking the silence. I don't want to lose you, but I can't keep pretending that we can just be friends. I love you too much for that. Ahmed's heart was heavy. He had been torturing himself with doubt, but in that moment, seeing the hurt in Priya's eyes, he knew he couldn't let her go. Without thinking, Ahmed reached out and cupped her face in his hands, looking deeply into her eyes. I love you, Priya, he confessed, his voice thick with emotion. I've been fighting it because of our age difference, because of what people will say, but I can't fight it anymore. Let's get married. Priya's eyes widened in shock. Married? She whispered, her voice trembling with both excitement and disbelief. Yes, Ahmed said with a sudden, firm resolve. Let's get married. I don't care what anyone thinks. I don't care about the rumors or the gossip. I love you, and I want to spend the rest of my life with you. Priya's heart leapt with joy, but at the same time, the weight of the decision began to settle in. They both knew that this wasn't going to be easy. The next few weeks were a whirlwind of emotions. As soon as they announced their intention to marry, the controversies began. Priya's family was the first to react. Her parents, who had always been supportive of her dreams, were stunned. They couldn't understand why their daughter, at the age of 22, would want to marry a man nearly twice her age. What will people think, Priya? Her mother asked, her voice filled with concern. They'll say you're only marrying him because he's wealthy, because he's established. People will talk. They'll say all sorts of horrible things about you. Priya remained calm, but the words stung. She had expected resistance, but it was still painful to hear the doubts from her own family. Her father, usually quiet and reserved, finally spoke up. Are you sure, Priya? He's divorced, he has children. You've barely lived your life. Why rush into this? But Priya stood firm. I'm not rushing into anything, Dad. I love Ahmed. I've loved him for years. And I don't care about what people will say. This is my life, and I know what's best for me. Ahmed's family, on the other hand, had their own concerns. His mother, Shabana, who was deeply traditional, was furious. She had always hoped Ahmed would reconcile with Fatima, and the idea of him marrying someone so much younger, and a Hindu girl no less, was too much for her to handle. "You've lost your mind, Ahmed," Shabana exclaimed. "What will the community say? People are already talking about the divorce. And now this, a young girl, barely old enough to know what she wants in life. They'll say she's after your money. And what about Ayan and Zara? How will they accept this?" Ahmed, though respectful of his mother's feelings, knew that this was his decision. He tried to explain that his love for Priya was genuine, but Shabana refused to listen. "You're making a mistake," she warned. "You'll regret this." The rumors spread like wildfire. In their neighborhood, people began whispering behind their backs. "She's just with him for his money," some said. Others speculated. "He's going through a midlife crisis, chasing after a younger woman." Priya's friends were also divided. Some supported her, admiring her for following her heart despite the age difference. But others were more critical. "Are you sure this is what you want, Priya? You're only 22. What about your future? You could have anyone. You don't need to settle for a man who's been divorced." But Priya was unwavering. She knew in her heart that Ahmed was the man she wanted to spend her life with, no matter the challenges. Perhaps the most difficult part of their decision was telling Ahmed's children, Ayan and Zara. They were now teenagers, 16 and 14, and the idea of their father remarrying, especially to someone so young, was hard for them to accept. One evening, Ahmed sat them down for a serious conversation. "There's something I need to talk to you about," he began, his voice calm but serious. Ayan and Zara looked at him, curious but apprehensive. "I've met someone," Ahmed continued. "You know her, actually. It's Priya. We're in love, and we've decided to get married." Ayan, who had always been close to his father, stared at him in disbelief. "Priya? But she's so young, Dad. She's almost the same age as Zara." Zara, more sensitive and emotional, burst into tears. Why can't you and Mom just get back together? Why do you have to marry someone else?" Ahmed's heart ached at his daughter's words. He knew this wasn't easy for them. "I know this is hard to understand," he said gently, "but your mother and I are not getting back together. And Priya, she makes me happy. I love her. I want you both to accept this, but I understand it will take time." The children struggled to come to terms with the news. Ayan, though hurt, eventually accepted his father's decision, realizing that Ahmed deserved happiness. But Zara, still clinging to the hope that her parents would reconcile, found it much harder to forgive her father for moving on. Despite all the challenges, Priya and Ahmed remained committed to each other. The world seemed determined to tear them apart, but their love only grew stronger with each passing day. They fought battles on all fronts, against societal judgment, against their own family's disapproval, and even against the doubts that sometimes crept into their own minds. But through it all, they never wavered in their belief that they were meant to be together. One night, after another heated argument with their families, Priya and Ahmed sat together in his apartment, exhausted but resolute. "I don't care what anyone says," Priya whispered, leaning into Ahmed's chest. "I'm with you. Always. Ahmed kissed her forehead, his heart full of love and gratitude. I love you, Priya, and I'll fight for us no matter what. But deep down, both of them knew that the hardest battles were still ahead. Would their love be strong enough to survive everything that stood in their way? Only time would tell. Chapter 3: Whispers and Scandal. The news of Priya and Ahmed's engagement spread like wildfire, and the gossip reached every corner of their community. The whispers grew louder, and everywhere they went, it felt like people were watching, waiting for them to fail. One evening, as they were walking in the park, they overheard two women talking nearby. Did you hear about Ahmed? He's marrying that girl, Priya. She's so young. People say she's only after his money. The word stung, but Priya clenched her jaw and walked on, her hand gripping Ahmed's. I'm not going to let them get to me, she said firmly. They don't know us. They don't know our love. Ahmed nodded, but he could feel the tension building inside him. It wasn't just the rumors. His own family was still against the marriage, and it weighed heavily on him. The constant questions, the doubts, the accusations, they all took their toll. Priya, too, faced pressure from her family. Her mother constantly tried to convince her to rethink the marriage. Beta, you're young, beautiful, and smart. Why would you want to tie yourself to a man with so much baggage? You could have anyone you want. But Priya's answer was always the same. I don't want anyone else, Mom. I want him. Despite the pressure, Ahmed and Priya's love only deepened. One evening, as they sat in a cozy corner of their favorite cafe, Ahmed took Priya's hand and gazed into her eyes. I want to marry you, Priya, he said softly, his voice filled with emotion. I want the world to know how much I love you. I don't care about the rumors, the judgments, or the gossip. Let them talk. What we have is real, and I want to spend the rest of my life with you. Priya's heart fluttered. She had been waiting for this moment, but hearing the words made her feel like her dreams were coming true. Tears welled up in her eyes as she smiled at him. I've always dreamed of this, she whispered. Even when I was a little girl, I used to tell my friends that I would marry you one day. They laughed at me back then, but now it's real. Ahmed pulled her closer, kissing her forehead gently. It's real, he whispered back, and it's going to happen. The romantic moment was interrupted when Ahmed suddenly dropped to one knee. Priya gasped, her hand flying to her mouth. Priya, he said, pulling out a small velvet box from his pocket. I know this isn't the most traditional way to do things, but I want to do this right. He opened the box to reveal a beautiful diamond ring. Will you marry me? Priya's tears spilled over as she nodded. Yes, Ahmed. Yes. 1,000 times yes. The entire cafe erupted in applause, and for a moment, it felt like the world was on their side. As excited as they were, the next hurdle was convincing their families. Priya's parents were skeptical, to say the least. They were especially worried about what society would think and how it would impact their reputation. One evening, Priya's father, Mr. Mehta, sat her down for a serious conversation. Priya, I've supported you in everything, but this decision, it's too much. You're young, and this man, he's older. He's been married before, he has children, and there's a lot of baggage. Are you sure you're making the right choice? Priya took a deep breath, preparing herself for the conversation she had dreaded. Dad, I love him. I know there's a lot of talk, but Ahmed isn't just a man with a past. He's kind, he's loving, and he understands me in a way no one else ever has. I'm not marrying him for his money or status. I'm marrying him because I want to spend the rest of my life with him. Her father sighed, rubbing his temples. It's not just about love, Priya. Marriage is a serious commitment. Have you thought about what it'll be like to be a stepmother to his children? To deal with the fact that people will always judge you? I have thought about it, Dad, Priya replied, and I'm ready for it. I know it won't be easy, but I believe in us. I believe we can make it work. Meanwhile, Ahmed faced his own battles. His ex-wife, Fatima, was furious when she heard about the engagement. She stormed into Ahmed's office one afternoon, demanding an explanation. "What are you thinking, Ahmed?" she spat. "Marrying a girl half your age? Do you realize how ridiculous you look? And what about Ayaan and Zara? Have you thought about how this will affect them?" Ahmed remained calm, though her words stung. "Fatima, this isn't about you or the past. Priya and I are in love, and I'm asking you to respect that. As for Ayaan and Zara, I've spoken to them, and they're coming to terms with it. I'll always be their father, but I deserve happiness too." Fatima scoffed. "Happiness? You think this is happiness? This is a midlife crisis. Ahmed, you're chasing after youth because you're afraid of growing old. But let me tell you, this won't last. She'll get tired of you, and you'll regret this." But Ahmed wasn't swayed. He knew in his heart that Priya wasn't just a passing phase. She was the woman he wanted to spend his life with. Despite the tension, Priya and Ahmed decided to throw an engagement party. They knew it would be controversial, but they wanted to show the world that their love was real. The party was held at a beautiful banquet hall, decorated with white flowers and golden lights. It was a celebration of love, but beneath the surface, the tension was palpable. Priya's family was there, but her parents were stiff and uncomfortable. Ahmed's mother, Shabana, sat in the corner, refusing to smile or engage with the other guests. She still didn't approve of the match, and her disapproval hung over the evening like a dark cloud. As the night wore on, the whispers began again. Some guests couldn't resist gossiping. "Look at them," one woman whispered to her friend. "She's just a girl, and he's old enough to be her father. She's clearly after his money." Another guest chimed in. "It won't last. You watch. She'll get bored, or he'll realize he's too old for her, and it'll all fall apart." Priya overheard the comments and felt a pang of hurt, but she pushed it aside. She wasn't going to let the negativity ruin her happiness. Later in the evening, Ahmed took the microphone to make a speech. "Thank you all for being here tonight," he began, his voice steady. "I know that some of you may have your doubts about us, and that's okay. But what matters is that Priya and I love each other. We've faced challenges and we'll continue to face them, but we're committed to making this work. This isn't just about defying the odds. It's about choosing love despite the obstacles." The crowd applauded, though some clapped more enthusiastically than others. Priya beamed at Ahmed, feeling a surge of pride. They were in this together, no matter what. As the wedding date approached, the backlash intensified. The local news picked up the story, spinning it as a scandalous May-December romance. Headlines like "Rich Businessman Marries Young Woman Half His Age," "Love or Gold Digging," and "Can This Marriage Survive the Gossip?" splashed across social media. Ahmed's business associates raised eyebrows, and some even distanced themselves from him, fearing that the scandal would tarnish their own reputations. Priya's friends received messages from people asking if she was really serious about the marriage. But the worst backlash came from Ahmed's children. One afternoon, Ayan confronted his father in a fit of anger. "I can't believe you're going through with this," Ayan shouted. "She's just a kid, Dad. You're embarrassing yourself and us. Do you really think this is what Mom wanted for you?" Ahmed's heart broke hearing his son's words. "Ayan, I know this is hard for you, but you need to understand that I'm not trying to replace your mother. I loved her, and I always will. But I also deserve to be happy." "Happy?" Ayan scoffed. "How can you be happy when everyone is laughing at you?" Chapter 4: A Clash of Cultures. As the wedding plans continued, a new controversy emerged, one that would stir up even more drama and division between Priya and Ahmed's families. Priya was Hindu, and Ahmed was Muslim. While love had united them, their different cultural and religious backgrounds became a point of heated debate. The first sign of trouble came when the question of Priya's wedding attire was raised. Traditionally, Muslim brides wear white dresses or embroidered lehengas, while Hindu brides wear red saris. One evening, Priya sat in her room with her mother, Mrs. Mehta, going through wedding magazines. Priya pointed to a beautiful red and gold sari. "This is what I've always dreamed of wearing on my wedding day," she said with a smile. "It's perfect, right?" Mrs. Mehta nodded, but she knew it wouldn't be so simple. "Beta, you should talk to Ahmed about this. His family might have different expectations for the ceremony." Later that night, Priya brought it up to Ahmed. They were having dinner at his apartment, a quiet evening alone before the storm that was sure to follow. "Ahmed, I've been thinking about the wedding," Priya began, a little nervous. "I'd love to wear a red sari, like my mother did. It's a part of my tradition." Ahmed paused, his fork halfway to his mouth. "A red sari," he repeated slowly. "I thought we'd follow the Muslim tradition. My family expects you to wear a white dress or at least something more modest." Priya's heart sank. She hadn't anticipated this problem. "But Ahmed, wearing a red sari has been my dream since I was a little girl. It's my way of honoring my culture. Can't we find a middle ground?" Ahmed sighed, rubbing his temples. "I understand, Priya. I do. But my family, they're already upset about this marriage. If you wear something that doesn't align with our customs, it might make things worse." The next day, the controversy over Priya's wedding outfit reached a boiling point. Ahmed's mother, Shabana, visited them to discuss the wedding plans. "You know, Priya," Shabana began, her tone gentle but firm, "for this marriage to truly work, there must be respect for our traditions. A Muslim bride does not wear bright red. It's too bold, too flashy. A simple white or pastel color would be more appropriate." Priya, feeling cornered, tried to remain calm. "I respect your traditions, Auntie," she said carefully, "but I also want to honor my family and my own culture. Red is a symbol of purity and love in Hindu weddings. It's important to me." Shabana frowned, her patience wearing thin. And what about modesty? Our community is already watching this wedding with scrutiny. Do you really want to give them more to talk about? People will think you're flaunting yourself. The tension in the room was thick, and Priya could feel her frustration rising. She wanted to marry Ahmed, but she didn't want to lose her identity in the process. I don't want to disrespect anyone, she said softly, but this is my wedding too. I should be able to wear what makes me feel like myself. Ahmed, who had been quietly listening, finally spoke up. Maybe there's a compromise, he suggested. Priya, what if you wore a red lehenga, but we kept the design more modest? That way, you can honor your tradition, and my family can feel more comfortable. It was a delicate balance, but even this compromise didn't sit well with either family. The drama didn't stop there. As the wedding date approached, people in the community started talking. The fact that Priya was Hindu and Ahmed was Muslim created endless gossip. Some of Ahmed's Muslim relatives whispered that Priya would never truly understand their way of life, while some of Priya's Hindu friends felt she was betraying her religion by marrying a Muslim man. One evening, Priya and her mother went to a neighborhood gathering. As they sat down, Priya overheard two older women gossiping about her. I heard she's converting to Islam for the marriage, one woman said, her voice dripping with judgment. She's abandoning her faith for a man. The other woman tooted. Can you imagine? And the way she's dressing these days, so modern. She's trying too hard to fit into his world. It's a shame. Such a pretty girl, but no respect for her roots. Priya clenched her fists under the table, her heart pounding. How could people be so cruel? She hadn't even decided whether she would convert, and yet people were already judging her choices. That night, she vented her frustration to Ahmed. People are saying such awful things. Ahmed, they think I'm going to lose myself in this marriage, that I'll abandon my family, my culture. I don't know what to do. Ahmed pulled her close, his arms wrapped around her protectively. Let them talk, he whispered. They don't know us, Priya. They don't understand our love. You don't have to prove anything to anyone. We'll find a way to make this work on our own terms. But the controversy only escalated. News of their interfaith marriage spread beyond their immediate circles, and soon, even the media picked up the story. Headlines like Asterisk, a love that defies religion. Can a Hindu-Muslim marriage survive the scandal? Asterisk started appearing in local newspapers. The families decided to hold a formal meeting to discuss the details of the wedding. It was supposed to be a calm discussion, but the emotions in the room were anything but calm. Priya's father, Mr. Mehta, was particularly concerned about the cultural clash. Ahmed, we respect your religion, but Priya cannot convert. She will remain Hindu, and we expect her to be able to celebrate her festivals and traditions freely. Ahmed nodded, understanding the sensitivity of the situation. Of course, Mr. Mehta. Priya doesn't have to change her religion. We will find a way to blend both our cultures in a respectful way. But Shabana was less accommodating. And what about our festivals? She asked sharply. Will Priya be willing to celebrate Eid and follow Islamic traditions? She can't just pick and choose. If she's marrying into a Muslim family, she must respect our way of life as well. The room grew tense, and Priya felt as if she were being pulled in two directions. I don't want to disrespect anyone, she said quietly. I want to be a part of both families, both traditions. Shabana crossed her arms, her expression stern. It's not that simple, Priya. You can't be half Hindu and half Muslim. You'll have to make choices, and those choices will affect both families. The meeting ended in a stalemate, with neither side willing to fully compromise. Priya and Ahmed were left to navigate the rocky waters of cultural and religious expectations on their own. The day of the wedding finally arrived, and with it came more controversy. Priya had chosen to wear a beautiful red lehenga, modestly designed but still distinctly Hindu in style. As she walked down the aisle, the room was filled with whispers. "She's wearing red," someone hissed. I knew she wouldn't respect their traditions. On the other side of the aisle, Ahmed's relatives were murmuring amongst themselves as well. "Look at her," one aunt said. "She's still dressed like a Hindu bride. I bet she'll never fit into our family." Despite the judgmental stares and critical whispers, Ahmed couldn't take his eyes off Priya. She looked stunning, and in that moment, all the controversy faded away. All he could see was a woman he loved, walking toward him to start their life together. When Priya reached the altar, Ahmed took her hand and whispered, "You look perfect." Priya smiled, feeling a sense of peace wash over her. They exchanged vows, a blend of Hindu and Islamic traditions, as their families watched with a mixture of emotions, some joyful, others still uncertain. After the wedding, the controversy didn't die down. In fact, it grew. Social media exploded with comments and opinions about their marriage. "She only married him for his money," one person wrote online. "No young girl marries an older man unless there's something in it for her." Another person commented, "It won't last. She's too young to understand what she's getting into." Despite the hurtful comments, Priya and Ahmed tried to focus on their love and their new life together, but the tension between their families persisted. Shabana still wasn't fully accepting of Priya, and at every family gathering, there were awkward moments. During one Eid celebration, Shabana made a pointed remark about Priya not knowing how to cook traditional Muslim dishes. "I hope you're learning, Priya," she said with a forced smile. "Being a part of this family means embracing all our customs, including our food." Priya, always the peacemaker, smiled and said, "I'm trying, Auntie. Ahmed is helping me learn." But inside, she felt the sting of never being fully accepted. Chapter 5. A New Beginning with Children. After their wedding, Ahmed and Priya settled into their new life together. The excitement of starting a family filled their home with hope and joy. They often talked about their dreams for the future and what kind of parents they wanted to be. Priya envisioned a household full of laughter, love, and acceptance of both cultures. As the months passed, they discovered they were expecting their first child. The news brought immense joy and also added a new layer of complexity to their already intricate lives. Priya was overjoyed but also anxious about how to balance her Hindu traditions with Ahmed's Islamic customs when it came to raising their children. One sunny afternoon, while sitting in their garden, Priya turned to Ahmed with a serious expression. "How do you think we should raise our children?" she asked. "I want them to know and appreciate both cultures." Ahmed smiled, taking her hand. "I want that too. We can teach them about Diwali and Eid, and they can celebrate both festivals. They will learn the values of both religions and grow up with a deep respect for our traditions. Priya nodded, feeling relieved. I want them to feel proud of who they are, just like we are proud of our love. When their baby boy, Ayan, was born, they felt their hearts swell with love. He had the brightest eyes, and every time he smiled, it felt like sunshine in their home. They celebrated his arrival with a unique ceremony that blended both cultures. A Hindu naming ceremony followed by a small Islamic celebration. As Ayan grew, Priya and Ahmed made it a point to celebrate both Diwali and Eid with equal enthusiasm. The first Diwali after Ayan's birth was a vibrant affair. Priya adorned their home with colorful rangolis, twinkling lights, and fragrant candles. Family and friends gathered, bringing laughter and joy. "Look at all the lights, Ayan," Priya exclaimed as they decorated the house together. "This is our way of celebrating the victory of light over darkness." That night, as they sat down to a feast, Ahmed raised his glass. "To our beautiful son, who will learn to love and respect both our cultures." Everyone cheered, and Ayan giggled, clapping his tiny hands. When Eid came around, Ahmed took the lead in preparing the festivities. He taught Ayan about the importance of charity and compassion. They went shopping for new clothes, and Ayan wore a cute kurta, beaming with pride. "Look, Mama, I'm ready for Eid," he shouted, his cheeks flushed with excitement. "You look perfect, my little prince," Priya replied, hugging him tightly. "And today, we will share our blessings with those in need." The family enjoyed the warm embrace of tradition, and their love continued to flourish. A few years later, Priya and Ahmed welcomed their daughter, Aisha. She was a spitting image of her mother, with twinkling eyes and a lively spirit. As a toddler, Aisha brought even more joy and laughter into their lives. On Aisha's first Diwali, Priya dressed her in a beautiful red lehenga, which she had preserved from her wedding. The colors shimmered under the festive lights, and Priya couldn't help but feel nostalgic. "Aisha, this is a special day," she said, kneeling to look into her daughter's eyes. "We celebrate love, family, and the triumph of good over evil. Do you understand?" Aisha nodded, her face beaming with excitement. "I want to help," she declared, running off to grab a handful of colorful powders for the rangoli. Ahmed watched, a proud smile on his face. "You're raising them well, Priya. They will be the bridge between our worlds." Despite their happiness, challenges still arose. Priya often found herself facing the scrutiny of relatives from both sides, who questioned how she managed to blend their two cultures. During one family gathering, an aunt from Ahmed's side commented, "It's good that Priya is trying to embrace our traditions, but will she really be able to raise Ayan and Aisha as true Muslims?" Priya felt her heart sink. "I may not be a Muslim, but I am committed to teaching my children the values of respect, love, and acceptance from both religions," she replied, trying to keep her composure. Later that evening, she confided in Ahmed, "Sometimes I feel like I'm always under a microscope. I love our life together, but the pressure from our families can be overwhelming." Ahmed held her close. "We'll face it together, Priya. Our love is stronger than their judgments. As long as we stand united, we can overcome anything." Family time became even more precious for Ahmed and Priya. They often spent weekends going on picnics, hiking in nature, and enjoying simple moments together. These experiences helped them bond as a family. One Saturday, they decided to visit a local fair. The children were filled with excitement, running from stall to stall. Priya watched them play, her heart swelling with love. "Look, Mama, I want that giant teddy bear," Ayan yelled, pointing at a booth. "Let's win it," Priya replied, her eyes sparkling with enthusiasm. After several attempts, Ayan finally won the teddy bear, his face lighting up with joy. Priya and Ahmed cheered, embracing their son tightly. "That's my boy," Ahmed exclaimed, ruffling Ayan's hair. "You've got your mother's determination." As the children grew, so did their questions about religion and identity. One day, Ayan came home from school looking troubled. "Mama, some kids say I'm not a real Muslim because you're Hindu," he said, his voice shaking. Priya knelt beside him, placing a reassuring hand on his shoulder. "Ayan, you are a beautiful blend of both cultures. You have the right to embrace both parts of yourself. Never let anyone tell you who you should be." Ahmed joined them, sensing the heaviness in the air. "Listen, Ayan, your identity is yours to create. Being a part of two cultures makes you unique and special. Embrace it." Ayan nodded, feeling comforted by his parents' words. "I will." As the years passed, the children became involved in school activities. One year, their school announced a multicultural play celebrating different cultures. Ayan and Aisha were excited to participate and began preparing for their roles. Priya helped them create costumes that combined elements of both cultures. Ayan wore a traditional kurta, while Aisha adorned herself in a colorful sari. On the day of the performance, they beamed with pride. Their parents sat in the audience, cheering them on. "They look amazing," Ahmed exclaimed, taking Priya's hand. As the curtain lifted, the children danced and sang, showcasing the beauty of their intertwined cultures. The performance was met with applause, and Priya couldn't help but feel proud of how far they had come. One evening, while tucking Ayan and Aisha into bed, Priya reflected on their journey. "I'm so grateful for the love we share," she whispered, kissing each child goodnight. "Me too, Mama," Ayan replied sleepily. "We're lucky." As Priya left the room, she glanced at Ahmed, who was waiting for her in the living room. "Can you believe how far we've come?" she asked, smiling. Ahmed nodded. "It hasn't always been easy, but it has always been worth it. Our love is stronger than any challenge we've faced." As their family continued to grow, Priya and Ahmed found joy in every moment they shared. Their home was filled with laughter, love, and the promise of a future together. Despite the struggles, they knew that their love had transcended boundaries and created something beautiful. One day, as they celebrated Ayan's birthday with family and friends, Priya looked around at the happy faces. She realized that their marriage had not only brought two families together, but had also woven together two cultures, creating a unique tapestry of love. As the cake was cut and candles were blown out, Ayan made a wish. "I wish for our family to always be happy together," he shouted. "Me too," Aisha chimed in. And as Priya and Ahmed watched their children, they couldn't help but smile, knowing that love truly conquers all.